But, Guy, what do you make of the quarter?
So last night, Gene was on, Gene Munster. He thought they'd beat by $2 billion and then guide higher by $2 billion. So they beat by about a little over $1 billion. Let's call it $1.5 billion. So that was light. And the guide was a little bit light. And it's not an indictment. It's just not what Gene thought. But the one number that stuck out to me, Christina just mentioned, gross margins are starting to go, I think, the wrong way. Now, the stock is up. That's fine. There's nothing to not like about the quarter, other than the fact that if margins start to decelerate, that's when these stories typically get long in the tooth. So that's the one thing that I'm watching here, Mel.
Yeah, and you got to watch because they said they're going to re-accelerate in the back half of the year, so 75%. So you got to think about what does that mean for competition. That means they're going to have more pricing power, or to your point, they're not going to break out Blackwell right now, but that should be a higher margin ramp. I just think of the trade, and we talk about it all the time, like, has it stalled out? Well, Nvidia hasn't gone anywhere in 8 months. You know, if you look at Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they're all down about 10% from their recent highs, some more than that. So the trade, and Taiwan Semi, I'll throw in there, the trade, for all intents and purposes, has stalled out. So what is going to be the catalyst, I think, to get it re-accelerated? I'm not so sure right now because I can't imagine on a sequential basis that Nvidia is going to be able to kind of do better than they just did. And what they just guided revenues to, up or down 2% from here, I mean, maybe that's an easy thing for them to beat, but it's going to have to be a big beat to get the stock going back towards new highs.
You mentioned the 9-month time frame. I mean, it's not pre-DeepSeek. I mean, DeepSeek was a real setback in terms of it trying to make some ground up.
Yeah, although, you know, we've gotten a 30% guide on CapEx for hyperscalers. I'm less worried about DeepSeek than I might be about where, you know, we're talking about this. But the question is, if the company's not expensive now, and that's maybe open for debate, but to me, trading at a discount to peers at 31 times, 32 times, with a peer group that's probably 33, 34, nobody's even close. So in a world where, okay, Nvidia, relative to themselves and relative to the last 2 years, this is one of the greatest bars to have to heat. This would be a Fosbury, Dick Fosbury, by the way.
He was a fan of the show. He passed away.
Yeah,
Fosbury
Fosbury flop. But again, a really respected guy and a big fan of the show. But the bottom line here is you've got a case where AMD is doing nothing. They've told you half over half. There's very little growth there. Nvidia continues to extend its lead. It's a case where, to me, that's really the story. If you're worried about the secular trends in AI, okay, but if you're worried about Nvidia relative to anyone else in the world, it's not even close. And to me, the stock's not expensive. So it was so... I wouldn't say oversold. I would just say the negativity going into this print was reasonably high. And you know, to me, this is a bit of a relief.
So I'm going to take the other side of that, only because I think the stock price looks like it's rolling over, and their revenues are reliant on the 4 top hyperscalers. It's 46% of their revenue. If they cut back a little bit on that DeepSeek headline, so there's DeepSeek doing it for $5 million. Was that the number? Or was it $5
Whatever.
billion?
It's a lot less.
All right,
whatever
so let's just say it's $5 billion. I think it was $5 million. Let's just say it's a lot less. There's a lot of middle ground. So even if that DeepSeek was a lot of nonsense, people are going to start to think I can do this on the cheap. And maybe I don't need a Blackwell. Maybe I don't need a large language model. Maybe I just need a chip. So why not pick out an AMD? Or an Intel. Intel's up 17%. I get it. It's the sum of the parts that had Intel running this year. But when you look at Nvidia, if 2 of those 4 cut back, you could see a revenue decline of 23%.
We've already heard the hyperscalers confirm, as to Tim's point, confirm their annual CapEx intentions.
Yeah,
true. What are we worried about here?
Well, we're not worried about anything in the near term. We're not worried about demand, and we're now not worried about supply. So again, if you get back to a stock that there's no disputing, this has been a dead trade.
Yeah.
No one needs to point this out. This has been obvious, and in fact, it's underperformed its peer group. It's underperformed the SMH by about 11% since their last earnings. But you get back to there's a big argument out there that even in a post-DeepSeek world, that the demand story even increases, and the elasticity of demand outstrips even the fall in the prices. That's the argument. And when Intel is nowhere even on the playing field right now, and AMD isn't even close, Nvidia is still the one that they're getting their lower priced chips from.